Welcome back to Guess Who's Coming, where we explore the world of gluten-free living with gusto. Today we are traveling through the beautiful landscapes of Italy with Catalin Varela, a travel organizer consultant for celiacs. Catalin's expertise helps gluten-free travelers enjoy Italy's culinary delights without worry. Welcome, Catalin!
Thank you so much for having me. I'm
There
happy
you
to
go.
be back.
You're happy to be back, and we are very happy to have you here.
In my language this time.
Yes, I know. The tables have turned. So, of course, the first, question that I'm going to ask you is when you discovered you were gluten-free. Like, tell me about your backstory.
So I discovered I have celiac disease in 2016. So I was 16 years old. And it was a crazy long journey. I was actively sick for a year.
What were your symptoms like?
So I lost a lot of weight.
Oh, yeah?
Like dangerously.
Oh, my God.
And which made it more challenging to be diagnosed because I was a teenage girl. So a lot of it was like, the immediate thought was eating disorder. Sure. I was like, no, actually, I would like sell my soul to eat pizza. I can't. So a lot of weight loss, but unlike a lot of celiacs, my symptoms were very neurological. So like brain fog and memory loss and that sort of thing. So yeah, it took a year from when I started presenting symptoms to when I was diagnosed. And in the middle of that, I was misdiagnosed with cancer.
No way.
Crazy experience. Flipped my life upside down, to say the least. So in a lot of ways, the celiac diagnosis felt like a blessing in disguise because I was like, thank God it's not cancer.
And I kind of, for me, it was kind of a no spoilers, but when you were misdiagnosed, like what happened there,
That's a great question. I really have a chip on my shoulder about the way that the medical system in America works.
Oh my God. Because you were diagnosed in the States, right?
In the States.
Because you're from
Colorado.
There you go.
Yeah. Like makes me laugh now in hindsight. And thank goodness that I can laugh about it.
Sure.
Maybe that's a trauma response. But it was a good few months that I thought that I had cancer. And being a 16-year-old, right, that's like, oh my God. I dyed my hair pink. I decided that I was going to travel the world. I did all sorts of crazy things. My mom and she would say yes to everything because I really genuinely thought that this is the way that my life is going to end.
That's so crazy for me.
Wild.
I think yours is the craziest story about being diagnosed that I've ever, listened to. I've ever heard. It's just crazy.
I've heard of a few other celiacs who are misdiagnosed with cancer.
No way.
It's not like there are many of us. We're few and far between, but I'm not the only one.
That's so crazy.
Isn't it weird?
Yes.
Yeah.
And what happened? Well, they called you. They were like, oh yeah, we just,
So funny enough, it was a family friend who is a functional medicine doctor who even mentioned celiac disease to me and my mom and suggested that we do genetic testing at home just to see if I was even predisposed. And at the same moment that we're in the doctor's office, I think my mom was on the phone discussing me going to the Mayo Clinic to do the bone marrow biopsy to quote unquote confirm this cancer diagnosis. We also got a call from the family friend saying, your genetic testing is positive, so you should continue down that road before you go and do this thing at Mayo Clinic. So very much stars aligned, universe got involved.
Yeah, totally.
Crazy.
And fortunately, was involved in a way.
Yeah.
So you, I bet you felt relief in a way, of course.
Yes, I felt relief that it wasn't cancer.
Yeah, but also kind of mad, or
I appreciated that there was a name to my suffering.
Absolutely.
There's something to be said
for
being able to say, this is why I don't feel good. Because for a year, it was just, we don't know why you're sick and dying. So that felt relieving.
That's crazy.
And then the next step is but now I have no idea what I'm doing. I don't even know what gluten is at this point. And so now they're avoid it like the plague. Oh but what is gluten?
Yeah.
I don't know. I know Italy is very advanced in this way, but in America, it's sort of you get the celiac diagnosis and there's no roadmap past that point.
Exactly.
Sort of congrats, here's your celiac diagnosis.
Bye.
No follow-up.
Yeah.
So I really felt like I had to work it out on my own.
That's so crazy. And from that moment on, how did your life change in a way? You started learning a lot about gluten-free options. And I know because, we talked about it, that there were no options kind of where you lived in a way?
Well, I grew up in the suburbs, so it wasn't like a big city where
Yeah.
there were a lot of things. My mom was really fundamental in my diagnosis journey. She went to every appointment with me. The second I was diagnosed, she converted her entire house to be gluten-free.
Yeah, my mom as well. So shout out again to
Yes.
the moms
We love
out
them.
there. Yeah.
Thanks for that.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then, once one person is diagnosed with celiac disease, the rest of my family got tested, and I just happened to be the unlucky one who
Girl, me too. Oh my God.
who was
so
celiac.
special.
My mom, though, ended up being gluten intolerant, and one of my sisters. So yeah, she converted her house to be gluten-free. We learned a ton about cooking at home. It was a long process for me to get better. Like going gluten-free, I wasn't getting any worse, but I wasn't necessarily putting more weight on, and it took a whole lot to get me back to functioning. And then I went to nutrition school simply because I had no idea what I was doing and felt like I needed to learn how to take care of myself. So I did that for a year and then fed into university, and I finished my degree in medical anthropology.
That's so great. And how did you end up in Italy,
So degree in medical anthropology, I wrote my thesis specifically about celiac disease and how different countries handle gluten-free diet and what sort of impact that has on celiac's ability to socialize. Because food has always been like a main means for connection. My family was the family that sat down for dinner every single night, which is not common in America. So I was traveling around mainly Europe, studying this. I say studying, but really I was just like throwing myself into these situations and seeing how it went. And that's what brought me to Italy. And I had the misconception that most people have of this is going to be so horrible. Yeah. It's just like pizza and pasta.
Yeah, everything with pizza, pasta, pane.
So awful. I came with my gallon-sized bag of beef jerky, trail mix. Like, I just have to make it through this week. Complete opposite experience. I just felt very welcomed. And there was also an element of like I felt more at home, celiac disease aside, I felt more at home and connected to Italy and Florence specifically than I'd ever felt in any other place. It was a strange feeling that I couldn't define. And I just knew that like I have to figure out a way to get here. Wow. I don't know what I'm going to do for work. I don't know a single soul. I don't even speak the language. But like, let me just get there and we'll figure out what happens from there.
So you traveled before to other like cities before Florence? And how did you fall in love with that city?
I think it's a great middle ground. Like I know you live in Rome. Rome and Milan are both beautiful. I feel there's a little chaotic for me, like very metropolitan. I love that Florence has a lot.
Also in the middle, so
it's very much in the middle geographically, but it has a lot going on.
Oh yeah, totally.
So I don't feel bored. We have a big international community, but at the same time, it's like a small town from an American standpoint. I can walk everywhere. Yeah. So I felt like it just had a little bit of everything that I wanted in a city.
That's so great. And then you got back to the States, right? You packed your things and you were like, okay, Mom, bye.
I know, my poor mother. She's like so excited to pick me up from the airport. I'm like, by the way, I'm moving.
That's so great. And like you moved there, and what was your goal? Like how?
What a great question.
Yeah, right?
I really don't know. I just felt this connection to Italy, and I thought I have to figure out what this means. So I got a student visa to come back to Italy to study Italian. Which I did. It's really common for Americans to get a study visa and then not study. Yeah. I very much went to school. So I'd like the record to reflect.
And I want to underline that she knows Italian very well.
I actually studied Italian.
Yeah.
Did the whole 20 hours a week.
And she has an accent also.
Like, Fiorentino.
Yeah, of course.
So I did that. And then maybe like a year and a half in, I hired a lawyer to help me convert my permesso di soggiorno to be self-employed. So now I am self-employed and I work with a partita IVA in Italy.
Yes, girl. So I know. That should be another theme for a podcast. But
no kidding.
About like our world, our gluten-free world. How did you start, talking about being celiac in Italy? Like how, everything started?
It was very accidental. I moved during the pandemic. So I was at home, had nothing to do. And I thought, it would be fun for me to teach like a pasta making class. I learned how to make fresh pasta, like flour and eggs and the whole thing. So I thought I'll teach a pasta making class over Zoom. I'm sure it'll be my mom and like my neighbor and some random, but some sort of Facebook group got a hold of it. And there were like 50 people in this class.
Wow.
And I have no idea what I'm doing. And they're like, when are you teaching next time? I said, oh, next week I'll be teaching again. And I end the Zoom call. I'm like, well, now I have to figure out what to do next week. Was sort of catching up with it that way. And then as the world began to open up more after COVID, people were asking me for recommendations. And that has trickled into now my full-time job as the celiac in Italy. And I do these travel consultations for people planning their trips.
That's so great.
I do my pre-curated travel guides. I do culinary experiences in Florence. I think I'm involved in the celiac world of Italy in like every imaginable way.
Yeah, absolutely. I just want to know, like, when you move to Florence, I see you like as the main character of a movie. Like, how did everything started from you discovering like places to eat in, Florence? Like, was that a positive experience that you had, like discovering so many, restaurants or I don't know, options for gluten-free as well?
We've swung in both directions. So when I first moved, when I moved, I had to quarantine in my apartment for 14 days.
Oh yeah, I remember. So yeah, you're totally.
That was real fun.
Yeah,
like
so fun.
My La Dolce Vita has started, and now I'm going to sit in my apartment for 14 days. And then I just wanted to try everything, and I went everywhere, and I was so excited to learn about the Italian Celiac Association. I downloaded the app, and I'm like super motivated. And that still is very much the case today. And now that I speak the language and understand the culture and also understand more the way that the kitchens work in Italy, I wouldn't say I'm more hesitant, but like I have a bit more of an understanding of how to make decisions about which places are safe, which really was what inspired me to help people with this. Because I think Italy has really developed this reputation for being very celiac safe, which is true. Yeah. And it's now like drawing a huge piece of tourism towards Italy. And sometimes there's this overtrust of like, I can just eat anything, anywhere. So I try and really be the neutral midway point of like encouraging the fact that Italy is a great place. And also there are some skills and some things that you need to know to eat safely.
Yeah. And also like I follow you, of course, because, let's repeat. Your profile name is Celiac in Italy.
Yes.
And you travel around, Europe, but I see you all the time, all around like Italy. So like what's so far like outside, of course, Florence, because you live there, other regions where you found so many options or you ate the best out of the best of something gluten-free?
Both Milan and Rome are great. Both of those cities have a lot of bakeries, which is so fun for me because that's one thing that we're missing in Florence.
Oh, yeah?
So if anyone wants to open a gluten-free bakery in Florence.
Exactly. That's the move.
I'll plug that. The bakeries are great. I recently went to Cinque Terre.
I saw that.
I know. And everyone was like shocked that I hadn't been because I've lived here for 4 years now. Wow. And I don't know why I hadn't made it there, but I traveled there and it was really lovely. I had a great time.
There's so many options there as well. Like,
yes, I would say that it was more limited than other places, but also if you think about it, like it's surrounded by a national park. I think we forget how isolated it really is. I love Venice as well. Yeah. Which is sort of like a hot take amongst Italians. Yeah. A lot of my Italian friends are like, oh, Venice. Yeah. I think Venice is great.
I mean, I think Venice is beautiful. But you, like, with your social media, have you had the chance to meet a lot of other, like, celiac, maybe content creators or people who are gluten-free?
This is probably my favorite part of my job. I've been able to connect with so many awesome content creators. I know you just spoke with Matt, and we met through Instagram and now in person, and we've met up in different countries around the world, in London and in Florence. I've met some really incredible gluten-free creators. Francesca as well, we met through Instagram. And then, my culinary experiences that I do in person in Florence, sort of food toury vibes. A lot of people find me on Instagram through that, and it's really interesting to meet celiacs from...
Yeah, but also tell us more about that, because it's such a great idea. Like, I love that. I was super fascinated the first time that I've heard, of course, your story.
I have 2 different kind of formats. One is sort of the idea of the travel consultation, but in person. So we're just having lunch, and you can...
Love it.
Pick my brain, chat about gluten-free Italy, tell me about your life as a celiac. Yeah. Like, we'll be gluten-free besties for a few hours. The other one looks a little bit more like a multi-stop journey. So aperitivo in one place and dinner in another place and gelato in another place. It's really fun for me. Like it's sort of crazy for me to say that this is my job. So I'm like, I just take people around and we eat good food and chat for a few hours, and it's super enjoyable.
I love it. And I mean, since you started on social media, did you ever ever seen that to become so big, like right now, like to be able to, I don't know, just transforming like a problem that you got diagnosed back when you were, how old were you? 16 to now, I don't know, turning that into, again, what doesn't kill you makes you stronger, like in this case again.
If you told me 8 years ago that I was doing this, I would have thought that you were absolutely crazy.
Yeah, that's so crazy to think about.
Yeah, it is super crazy to think about the evolution. And I was, not to talk about my mom so much, but I was talking to my mom the other day, and she was like, it's so weird that you, like in the span of 4 years, have moved to a different country and learned a different language and opened a business and did all those things. And to me, it seems like so much longer than 4 years. And I'm like, wow, that is like quite a short period of time to squish all that stuff into. I never would have imagined that this was the way things were going to go. But it makes sense.
Yeah.
Like, now I can't imagine doing anything else.
Exactly. And since you speak another language, which is Italian, do you have like fun stories to tell? Like when you were talking maybe at first about like being celiac, any fun stories that ever happened to you?
Oh, that's a good question. I do think that I get different responses from restaurants depending on the language that I speak.
Okay.
Which is another reason why I'm so motivated to help people. Because
of course,
I think about like times when I went into a restaurant early in my journey living in Italy and I did not speak Italian. And they're like really encouraging in English. It's sort of like they have this company line that they give to the tourists. Yeah. Like, we've got gluten-free things. Don't worry.
Yeah.
Once you start speaking Italian and you know how to ask the questions of like, do you have a separate oven? And do you have a separate fryer? Yeah. It's like you start to kind of unravel what the situation actually looks like. So that's been an interesting journey.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. And what are... I don't know, tell us, do you have some, future projects that we can know about a little bit?
Yes. So 2 days ago from this recording, I announced my collaboration with the Italian Celiac Association.
Congratulations.
Thank you. Yeah, super exciting. They haven't ever done a collaboration like this before. They haven't worked with one person. So it's really, really exciting. I'm spearheading this initiative for celiac tourism, specifically in Tuscany, but we're hoping that this is a pilot program that gets replicated in other regions. So initially, I'm helping them translate their website into English, create a tourism section that just has relevant information for visiting Tuscany as a celiac, create a blog, and then help them with some social media content as well.
That's amazing, girl. Congratulations.
Thank you so much.
And, what about like, whenever you talk, because you talk to a lot of gluten-free people, of course, what's the first tip that you gave to them, when coming to Italy and being celiac?
Have fun.
Sure.
Like Francesca was saying, I think you're also like a therapist.
Yeah.
And in some ways it's true because a lot of people that I talk to have a lot of anxiety.
Oh, yeah.
Understandably. And I really resonate with that because I too was in that position. Like the first few years of my diagnosis, I was pretty convinced that I just would never even leave my own house.
Sure.
So I really try and focus the first part of our consultation on like encouragement. Like, you don't have to be terrified of the world. Sure. It's going to be okay. Here are the skills you need to navigate it well. I always make sure that celiacs have some basic Italian words in their back pocket.
Yeah.
A lot of Italians speak English, and especially in the hospitality industry, they're eager to speak English. Mm-hmm. They speak English to me every day. I must give off some sort of like American energy. But I do think that having some basic phrases in your back pocket is good to lean on.
Well, now we are in London. If you can spoil that. How do you feel about that? You talk a lot about Italy, of course, but you had also the chance to travel Europe.
Yeah.
Which is, I think, very cool. Maybe you're, coming from America, which is super, such a huge country. You can just travel all around the world. So what's your, of course, other than Italy, favorite place to travel to that has a lot of gluten-free options?
London is awesome. I like that there's so much international cuisine in London. Like,
totally.
Don't get me wrong, I love Italian food.
No, me too. Like, I'm Italian, but I love the options
but
here
also,
as well.
like, we don't have a lot of options beyond Italian food. It's celiac safe in Italy.
Exactly.
So when I come to London, I'm like, we have to get burgers and sushi. And
exactly. It's the first thing that I got when I came
all
here.
All the things that are not Italian.
Exactly.
So I love the variety. Paris can be really fun. I think France as a country gets a bad rep, understandably, because it is challenging to navigate in some places. But if you're inside of Paris, bakeries, I'm like going to talk all day about the baked goods, but
no, I know bakery. Yeah, in Paris they're so
croissant.
good. Oh yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
And so like so many awesome things you're doing. What is your future plan with, of course, your being celiac in Italy?
I'm really focused on this collaboration with AIC at the moment, and hoping that turns into, they have a lot of really great plans, and we're hoping for like in-person events and all sorts of things.
Well, please invite me, of course.
Yeah, like, obviously. You could come whenever.
Yeah. I mean, thank you so much. I love your content. I love
Thank you.
Seeing the smile on your face coming from like being scared of being diagnosed to now, super being happy and thriving. Exactly. So, I mean, cannot wait to see what you're doing, girl.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, Catalin, for being here. And of course, congratulations and hope for the best for you.
Thank you so much. My pleasure.